To understand these letters, you have to understand the stakes. This isn't a polite courtship. Mary is navigating a world of extreme instability. She is in Paris and Havre, dealing with the chaos of the French Revolution, managing the complexities of motherhood, and facing constant financial uncertainty. And through all of this, she is deeply, almost desperately, in love with Gilbert. In the beginning, the letters are filled with an intense, almost spiritual romanticism. Mary writes to him from a place of profound vulnerability. She isn't just a philosopher here, she is a woman who has staked her entire emotional well-being on the hope of a shared life. She describes her longing for him in ways that feel almost physical, a constant ache to be in his presence. Even when she is physically ill or struggling with the logistics of travel, her focus remains on Gilbert. She views their connection as something that transcends the mundane, something that justifies the hardships she is enduring. At this stage, she is the lover who believes that love is a sanctuary, a place where the chaos of the world can be shut out. But as the months pass and the distance between them remains, the tone of the correspondence begins to shift. It is a slow, painful erosion. The warmth of those early letters is replaced by a growing sense of disillusionment. As Mary travels and faces the harsh realities of life in Havre, she starts to see a pattern in Gilbert's behavior that she can no longer ignore. He is inconsistent. He oscillates between moments of intense tenderness and periods of cold, calculated distance. This is where the letters become truly fascinating, because Gilbert doesn't just ignore her. He uses the language of the Enlightenment to justify his distance. He talks about reason and principle. He frames his emotional withdrawal and his refusal to commit as a matter of logic or moral necessity. He tries to make his selfishness sound like a philosophical stance. He tells her that his focus on his business or his need for independence is a rational choice, a way of maintaining his integrity. But Mary sees right through this. She begins to realize that Gilbert is using high-minded philosophy as a shield to avoid the messy, difficult responsibilities of affection and accountability. She realizes that his reason is actually a tool for evasion. It's a way to keep her at arm's length while still enjoying the benefits of her devotion. She starts to call him out on this, accusing him of using intellectualism to mask a lack of character. The conflict reaches a boiling point when the letters move from the idealistic dream of Paris to the practical, often suffocating reality of Havre. Mary begins to critique the very world Gilbert is trying to build for them. She speaks of the smell of commerce and the superficiality of the social circles in Havre. To her, the pursuit of material stability and social utility feels hollow compared to the depth of the connection she thought they shared. She sees how the focus on money and status begins to erode the genuine human connection she craves. There is a pivotal moment in the letters where the power dynamic shifts entirely. Gilbert attempts to provide her with financial support, perhaps as a way to soothe his conscience or to maintain a sense of control. But Mary rejects it. She refuses to be bought off. She insists that money is a poor substitute for his presence and his genuine affection. This is a massive moment of self-assertion. She is telling him that her dignity and her emotional needs cannot be settled with a bank transfer. She is demanding a partnership of equals, not a transaction of a protector and a dependent. As the correspondence moves toward its end in London, we see the final transformation of Mary Wollstonecraft. The woman who started these letters, the one who was vulnerable and infatuated, is gone. In her place is a woman of fierce moral clarity and self-assurance. She has seen the reality of Gilbert Imlay, and she has decided that he is not the man she believed him to be. She realizes that his version of reason is nothing more than a way to avoid the duties of a man in a relationship. He uses the language of principle to justify his own selfish inclinations, and she refuses to play along any longer. In a powerful final act of self-preservation, Mary formally severs all ties with him. She doesn't just end a romance, she declares an eternal farewell. She asserts her own moral integrity, stating that while his actions were driven by fleeting passions and self-interest, her own feelings were sacred and sincere. She doesn't leave him in a state of weeping despair, she leaves him with the weight of his own remorse. She reclaims her dignity by walking away, proving that she is an autonomous agent, capable of deciding her own worth, regardless of whether he recognizes it or not. When we look back at these letters, it's easy to get lost in the tragedy of the failed romance. But the real story is the intellectual and emotional evolution of Mary Wollstonecraft herself. She uses this heartbreak to test her own theories about human nature and autonomy. There is a recurring metaphor in her writing that is worth noting, the distinction between the parasite plant and the elm. She uses these botanical images to describe different kinds of love. She speaks of the parasite, plant, a love that is dependent, suffocating, and grows by draining the life out of another. This is the kind of relationship she fears, the kind where one person's identity is swallowed by the other. In contrast, she speaks of the elm, a tree that is stable, strong, and provides a foundation for others to grow. She is looking for a partnership that is like the elm, a relationship where two people stand side by side, supporting each other without destroying one another. This brings us to the central tension of the entire correspondence, the conflict between reason and passion. It's a theme that defined the entire Enlightenment era, but Mary applies it to the most intimate parts of human life. Gilbert tries to argue that passion is irrational and that his detachment is a form of reason. Mary argues the opposite. She argues that true morality and true reason must be rooted in sincere, felt affection. To her, a life lived solely by cold logic, without the capacity for deep, committed emotion, is not a life of principle, it is a life of cowardice. She also provides a profound critique of how commerce affects human relationships. She sees how the drive for material utility and social standing can turn people into commodities. In her view, when we start viewing our connections through the lens of what they provide us, whether it's money, status, or convenience, we lose the ability to truly love. Gilbert's attempt to solve his emotional failures with financial gestures is, to her, the ultimate symptom of this commercial mindset. Ultimately, these letters are a record of a woman reclaiming herself. Mary Wollstonecraft spent much of her life fighting for the rights and the agency of women, but in these letters we see her fighting for her own agency in the most private, painful way possible. She moves from being a woman who is defined by her love for a man, to a woman who is defined by her own moral standards. The ending is not a happy one in the traditional sense. The relationship is over and the pain is real. But there is a profound sense of victory in her final words. She has survived the disintegration of her illusions. She has looked at the man she loved, seen him for exactly who he was, and decided that she deserved more than a man who uses philosophy to hide his selfishness. She leaves the reader with the idea that dignity is not something given to us by others. It is something we claim for ourselves through our actions and our refusal to settle for less than the truth. In the end, Mary Wollstonecraft doesn't just walk away from Gilbert Imlay, she walks toward herself.